Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Shaostoul again. This is a short video covering the very basics of dummies or empties in Blender for just generic purposes. As for what I mean is two types specific to pretty much any type of block that can have them. The first one is the terminal, and that is more or less the spot you would click on to access the control panel, more or less. So for this example, I'm on my Gatling turret. So you would access this terminal, this red part here, on my block, and be able to turn it on and off, for example. The size, scale, and rotation all matter for this empty. As you can see, unlike the thruster tutorial, I do not need to rotate this on the z-axis like I did for the thruster. It's right where it needs to be, exactly how one would expect it to be. Now, you can see I have it tilted. If I go to one of the side views, I have it tilted a bit so it kind of matches the way the terminal is, and then I have it scaled. The lines aren't very good at saying exactly how big it is, but if you, for this example, I'll say you press Control A and you accidentally fix the scale. It goes back, but it's not the full size it used to be. If you were to look at this in game, it would be a really large cube. It would be about that big. But you don't want that. So what you do is you make a brand new empty, and then you scale it down and rotate it how you want. And then you just make sure that you don't freeze the scale for this particular empty. So you can keep the yellow box that you see in game the size you want it to be. So here you can see it's about 0.125 meters tall and thick, and then it's about 0.35 meters wide. Anyways, the next empty is the conveyor empty. This one also changes based off of how you have it scaled. For turrets, you are able to access the conveyor port, if I remember correctly, unless they've changed things. So you throw this onto the bottom of your turret, for example, and you are able to throw ammo into it suddenly, automatically with conveyors, and you don't have to worry about hand feeding it ammo. And it changes when you go to a small block. You can have detector conveyor on a small block. It just means that it's going to use the large conveyor tube. For small conveyor tubes, it's underscore small after conveyor. So it would be detector underscore conveyor underscore small underscore 001 for this example, I believe. The easiest way to find out would be to go into where you have Space Engineers and locate the model pack and import an FBX from there. So go to my tools, models, cubes, large. Actually, we'll go back and look at a small one. And what would be a good one to look at? All these blocks, and I haven't Here, I'll go with a small one. So now you can see I have the small conveyor cube in here, and yeah, so it's interesting. So mine don't say dummy underscore detector, but to my knowledge they still work. That might be a 3ds Max thing, but mine work as detector underscore terminal. So if mine don't work for you, then try this dummy detector business. I'm not sure why mine would be working, but they don't have that. My guess is it's just an extra thing they added recently, maybe? I'm not sure, but who knows. So yeah, there's the conveyor small, terminal, let's see, there's the conveyor, or no, the connector. So if you go into the connector, you can see this one has detector inventory. For example, on the conveyor, that one lets you access the inventory of that. But for a turret, all you need is the conveyor, and it should let you access it. Unless they've been changing things on me. It's been a while since I've messed with this stuff. The dummy detector conveyor is small, so the small conveyor tubes are what would hook up to this, not the large conveyor tubes on small ships. So my turret uses, the large ship one uses detector conveyor, the small ship one actually uses detector conveyor small. And then you have detector ejector. I do not believe the scale for that one matters. The only time the scale matters is if you will see the yellow block in-game that you can access it. I'll go ahead and open up the chair. So cockpit should be okay. So in here you can see detector cockpit. The scale for that one matters because when you use that dummy, the yellow block that you see in game, it puts you into the block. So if you had a terminal on this one, it'd be accessing the information for it for like turning it on and off, but I don't think cockpits can have that. So then we'll go ahead and look again. I believe it's called the passenger seat. Yeah, here we go. So when we look in this one, it also says detector cockpit. So the difference between the passenger seat and the cockpit would then be in the code of you can't control the ship in the passenger seat, but you can control it in one of the cockpit seats. I think that pretty much covers the basic connectors, or dummies. Go ahead and open up this. There's one more I should look at. I think it's the collector that has a generic one. So there's the conveyor small again, and then the conveyor. So here you can see that it has the regular conveyor, and then it has the small conveyor. And then here you can see the dummy detector collector. This one, for example, would control the size of how big the grab area is. So you could make this really, really huge, and it would grab everything in a giant radius, but it might lag you out some. But you would never have to worry about, for example, stone floating around. So you could like make a gravity collector that automatically grabs everything in a certain radius. If it has a power requirement, you could probably make it really high so it doesn't get abused too much, I guess. So that's entirely up to you. The other one that would be important to mention would be the grinders. So here you can see that you have the regular grinder, then you have the conveyor on the back, you have the detector ship tool, and then the subparts. The dummies in this instance are the subparts are for the disks that spin, the conveyor if you want to access the inventory. Here's another example of needing just the conveyor and not that inventory one that we saw on the collector. And then here you see the dummy detector ship tool. This is just like the collector. You can make this really large and weld a huge, or grind a huge area and get away with it. But you could try balancing it out by making the power requirement for it really hot. I'm actually working on one where it has one with a large welding area, one with a large grinding area, and one with a large drilling area inspired by the game Total Annihilation or Supreme Commander, if you've seen either of those. The newest one that you might know is Planetary Annihilation, the nano-lathing from that. Alright, that should cover everything dummy-wise. You only have to mess with those in the FBX. You don't do anything in the XMLs, you don't do anything in the cube blocks. It's all in your modeling program. You don't mess with it in the FBX. So yeah, that should cover the very basics of that. I'll see you in the next video.